In 1958, Harlem Bumpy Johnson was betrayed by the one man sworn to protect him. A $50,000 deal was taken, the trigger was pulled, and 300 witnesses froze in silence. The plan was supposed to end everything in seconds, but the situation flipped in a way no one saw coming. So who was really being destroyed? To understand how it all led here, the story goes back to where it truly began. August 15, 1958, 11:47 p.m. Bumpy Johnson stood alone in the back alley behind Red Rooster Bar. 12 men surrounded him. All Italian. All armed. Bumpy's hands were empty, hanging loose at his sides. But his eyes, those eyes, were cold as winter steel, scanning each face like he was reading their obituaries. The lead enforcer, a thick-necked man named Sal, stepped forward. "You got a lot of nerve showing up alone, Bumpy." Bumpy didn't blink. 12 of you. One of me. Who's really alone here? That was Harlem in 1958. A kingdom nobody could touch, ruled by a man nobody could buy. 5 square miles of concrete and soul, where every street corner, every storefront, every apartment building knew one name: Bumpy Johnson. Not because he took, because he gave. 3 days earlier, 3 Italian mobsters had tried something stupid. They snatched 3 black kids off 125th Street, ages 7, 9, and 11. The plan was simple: hold them for ransom, make their families pay. Show Harlem who really ran things. But within 6 hours, Bumpy found them. He walked into that warehouse on the docks with just Illinois Gordon. 2 men. 6 mobsters. When it was over, those 3 kids walked out without a scratch. The 6 mobsters. 3 went to the hospital. 3 went to the morgue. And the 3 who grabbed the kids, Bumpy sent them back to Little Italy, with both arms broken, a message carved into their memory. Standing in that alley now, Sal knew what happened to those men. They all did. That's why none of them had pulled a trigger yet. Bumpy took 1 step forward. "Touch our children, you touch me, and I don't miss." Bumpy took 1 step forward. "You want Harlem. You think you can just walk in and take it." His voice was quiet, but it carried like thunder. "You're standing in a neighborhood where I pay rent for 47 families. Where I put 47 kids through school. Where old folks eat because I make sure they eat. You think you scare them more than hunger, more than eviction, more than dirty cops who used to beat them in the streets before I made those cops remember their manners." Sal's hand twitched near his gun. Bumpy smiled. "Here's what you don't understand. I'm not a gangster, I'm a father. Every kid in Harlem is my kid. Every grandmother is my mother. Every struggling family is my family. You want to take Harlem, you'll have to go through all of them. And trust me, they hit harder than you think." He let that sink in for 3 seconds. "Touch one child here, you touch them all. And when you touch them all, you touch me. So I'll say it one more time slow so it gets through those thick skulls. Touch. Our children. You. Touch. Me." The 12 men looked at each other. Nobody moved. Bumpy walked through them like they were ghosts. Not one hand reached for a weapon. That was power. Real power. The kind you can't buy and can't steal. The kind that comes from feeding the hungry, protecting the weak, and standing between your people and the wolves that want to devour them. But the Italians weren't done trying. That same night, 200 miles south in Little Italy, another meeting was taking place. This one was different, more dangerous, because desperate men make desperate decisions, and the 5 families were running out of patience. The room was thick with cigar smoke. 5 men sat around a mahogany table. Frank Costello at the head, Carlo Gambino to his right, Vito Genovese, Joe Bonanno, and Tommy Lucchese filling out the circle. These men controlled everything from Boston to Miami, everything except 5 square miles in Harlem. And that drove them insane. Costello slid 7 photographs across the table. Crime scene photos, hospital records, mugshots. Each one represented a failure, A dead soldier. A plan that collapsed. An operation that Bumpy Johnson saw coming before it even started. 7 times, Costello said, his voice flat and cold. 7 goddamn times we've tried to take that neighborhood. 7 times that man made us look like amateurs. Gambino picked up one photo. It showed 2 bodies in an alley. He's got eyes everywhere. My guys can't take a breath in Harlem without Bumpy knowing about it. There's a leak. Has to be. A leak. Genovese leaned forward, his cigar glowing red in the dim light. We've got 100 guys on payroll. Cops, politicians, dock workers. Somebody's feeding him information. Somebody close. The thought hung in the air like poison. If Bumpy had an informant inside the 5 families, everything was compromised. Every plan, every move, every weakness exposed. Costello stubbed out his cigar. We've tried muscle. We've tried money. We've tried politics. Nothing works. This man operates like he's got a crystal ball. 3 moves ahead of us every single time. Silence filled the room. Then Gambino spoke his words slow and deliberate. You can't kill a tiger head on, but you can buy the man who feeds it. Find the one person he trusts completely. The one person who can get close enough to put a bullet in his head before he sees it coming. Bonanno nodded. His bodyguard, Big Sam. Been with Bumpy 5 years. Never leaves his side. If anyone can do it, it's him. Can we flip him? Costello asked. Everyone's got a price. Gambino replied. We just need to find his. They found it, and its name was Kesha. 9 years old. Dying. Sam Foster had taken 2 bullets for Bumpy Johnson. The first one came outside a jazz club in 1955. Someone fired from a rooftop. Sam saw the muzzle flash, pushed Bumpy aside, took the round in his left shoulder. The second came during a territorial dispute in 1956. Out-of-town hustlers tried to ambush Bumpy outside Small's Paradise. Sam stepped in front, caught one in the thigh. Both times Bumpy paid every medical bill. Both times Bumpy sat by Sam's bed until he woke up. They weren't employer and employee, they were brothers. It started 5 years ago. 1953. Sam was younger then, 23 years old, broke desperate. 3 cops had him in an alley off 132nd Street. They were beating him with nightsticks because he'd walked past them without lowering his eyes. Or maybe because it was Tuesday and they needed to hit someone. Didn't matter. Being black in certain parts of Harlem back then meant you were always one wrong look away from broken ribs. Sam was on the ground, blood pouring from a gash above his eye when a shadow fell across the alley entrance. Bumpy Johnson. Alone. No gun visible. Just standing there in a gray suit and fedora like he was waiting for a bus. The lead cop, an Irishman named Donovan, grinned. Keep walking, Bumpy. Police business. Bumpy walked closer instead. Funny. Looks like 3 grown men beating a kid half to death. That's not police work. That's cowardice. He looked at Sam, bleeding on the ground. Get up, son. Sam struggled to his feet. Bumpy turned to the cops. Here's what happens next. You 3 walk away. You forget this young man's face. And when your sergeant asks why your arrest numbers are down this month, you'll remember this conversation, and thank God you still have working knees. Donovan wanted to argue. His hand moved toward his nightstick, but he didn't swing it. Because 3 blocks away, Illinois Gordon was watching. Because last month a cop who shook down a black-owned barbershop ended up in the hospital with both hands broken. Because Bumpy Johnson's threats weren't threats, they were prophecies. The cops left. Bumpy helped Sam to a bench. You got family? Wife? 3 daughters. Sam managed through split lips. You got work? Lost my job yesterday. Bumpy handed him a handkerchief. You do now? Small's Paradise. Tomorrow. 8 a.m. That was 5 years ago. Since then, Sam had been Bumpy's shadow, his protector. The man Bumpy trusted when the lights went out and enemies circled. They'd eaten at the same table, fought the same battles, bled on the same streets. But now, Sam sat in his kitchen, at 2 a.m., listening to his youngest daughter cough in the next room. Each cough was a knife. Kesha, 9 years old. Tuberculosis. The hospital bills sat on the table. $47,000. 15 years of salary, impossible numbers. Marie, his wife, sat across from him, eyes hollow from crying. Doctor said 3 months, maybe less without the new treatment. 3 months, 90 days. That's what his daughter had left unless Sam found money that didn't exist. He'd asked Bumpy for help 2 weeks ago. Bumpy gave him $2,000 without hesitation, without questions. But $2,000 against $47,000 was like spitting on a forest fire. That's when the black Cadillac appeared. No license plate, tinted windows. It pulled up outside Sam's building on a Tuesday night, quiet as a hearse. Sam was walking home when the back window rolled down. A man in a sharp suit smiled at him like a salesman who knew he'd already won. "Big Sam, I've heard stories about you." Sam's hand moved to his waistband. "Who are you?" "Someone who can save your daughter's life. 5 minutes. Hear me out. You don't like it, walk away." Sam should have walked right then, should have gone straight to Bumpy. But desperation makes men stupid and curiosity makes them careless. He got in. The man extended his hand. "Tony Maroney. My friends call me Tony the Collector." Sam didn't shake. "What do you want?" Tony didn't waste time. "I know everything about Kesha. St. Luke's Hospital Charity Ward, bed 14. Tuberculosis. I know you owe $47,000. I know Bumpy gave you $2,000. I know you lie awake counting the nights your daughter has left." Sam's jaw clenched. "You're Italian mob." "Does it matter?" Tony opened a briefcase, inside neat stacks of $100 bills. $50,000 cash tonight. Pay every bill. Watch your daughter grow up, graduate high school, get married, give you grandchildren, all of it. Or walk away and bury her in 3 months. Sam stared at the money, more than he'd see in a lifetime. For what? 1 bullet, September 12th, 11:47 p.m., Lenox Lounge, Bumpy Johnson, back of the head. Then you disappear. We've got new identities ready, car waiting. By sunrise, you're in Miami. By next week, you're someone else. And if I say no, Tony's smile faded. Then Kesha dies, slowly, painfully, in a charity ward where the nurses are too busy and the medicine runs out. And you'll watch every second of it knowing you could have saved her, but chose loyalty to a gangster instead. He pulled out a photograph. Kesha, sleeping in her hospital bed, tubes running from her small arm. Beautiful girl, shame she'll never see 10. Sam got out of the car without answering, but Tony left the briefcase on the seat, money visible, glowing under the streetlight. 3 weeks, Sam, but I'll tell you something for free. Bumpy's going to die anyway, with you or without you. Might as well be with your daughter alive. The Cadillac drove away. Sam stood on the empty street hand, shaking that briefcase of blood money burned into his memory. What Sam didn't know was that Bumpy already knew everything. In Harlem, Bumpy had 200 pairs of eyes, bartenders who heard things, cab drivers who saw things, janitors who cleaned offices after midnight and found things. And Jerome, 70 years old, parking attendant on 138th Street. Everyone thought he just parked cars and told war stories. Jerome had been a military intelligence officer in World War II. He'd cracked codes in Berlin. He'd tracked enemy movements through occupied France. Now he parked cars in Harlem with a camera hidden in his shoeshine box. When Tony's Cadillac pulled up, Jerome was there. He filmed everything. Sam getting in, Tony opening the briefcase, Sam getting out. 2 hours later, Jerome was in Bumpy's office above Small's Paradise. The projector clicked. Grainy footage showed the whole thing. 47 seconds that changed everything. When it ended, Bumpy sat in the dark for a long time. Then he opened his drawer, pulled out $500, handed it to Jerome. "You didn't see anything tonight?" "No, sir, Mr. Johnson. Nothing at all." After Jerome left, Bumpy sat alone. No lights, no music, just him and the weight of knowing. Sam had been with him 5 years, saved his life twice, sat at his table, slept under his roof. They were brothers. But now the Italians were poisoning that brotherhood with money and fear, and Bumpy had to decide, kill Sam now, or wait and see if 5 years of loyalty was stronger than $50,000 and a dying daughter. Most men in Bumpy's position would have made one phone call. Sam disappears. Problem solved. But Bumpy wasn't most men. He opened his desk drawer and pulled out an old photograph. Him and Sam. 3 years ago on a rooftop in Harlem. Rainy night. They'd been hiding from some out-of-town hustlers, spent 4 hours up there sharing whiskey, talking about everything and nothing. Sam had asked him something that night. "Why'd you save me back then in that alley? You didn't know me." Bumpy had looked out over the city lights. "Your eyes." "Sam, I've seen a million eyes. Eyes that lie. Eyes that scheme. Eyes that only see dollar signs. But yours just tired. Tired of being beaten down for existing. That's honest. And honest is rare in this world." Now holding that photograph, Bumpy made his decision. He wouldn't kill Sam. He'd teach him. Teach him what loyalty really cost. Teach him what he'd be throwing away. Teach Harlem, teach the 5 families, teach everyone watching what happened when you bet against family. And he'd do it in a way nobody would ever forget. The call to Victor came at 3 a.m., 3 hours after Jerome left Bumpy's office. Victor Kozlov answered on the first ring, wide awake. Men in his line of work didn't sleep deep. "Victor's custom shop." "It's Bumpy. I need something special." Victor had worked with Bumpy for 15 years. Modified weapons, silencers, custom grips. Whatever Harlem's king needed, Victor delivered, but this request was different. "I need a gun that looks perfect, feels perfect, weighs perfect. But when you pull the trigger, nothing happens. No bullet, no firing pin strike, just a click." There was a pause. Victor lit a cigarette, thinking, "You want a dummy gun?" "No. A dummy gun feels wrong. Light. Fake. I need something that fools a man who's carried a .38 special for 5 years. Same weight, same balance, same everything. Except it doesn't work." Victor understood. This wasn't about killing. This was about teaching. "I can do it, 3 days. "You have 2. The line went dead. Victor stubbed out his cigarette and went to his workshop in the basement of a Brooklyn tenement. The room smelled like gun oil and metal shavings. Rows of tools hung on the walls like surgical instruments. He pulled a .38 special from his inventory, identical to the model Sam carried, and got to work. The art wasn't in breaking the gun. Any fool could jam a firing pin. The art was in making it look untouched. Victor disassembled the weapon piece by piece. Barrel, cylinder, trigger assembly, firing pin. He held the firing pin under a magnifying lamp, studying it like a jeweler examining a diamond. Then he went to his grinding wheel. Sparks flew in the dark as he carefully shaved down the tip of the pin, removing just enough metal so it would never strike the primer hard enough to ignite the gunpowder. Not broken. Just neutered. He reassembled the gun, loaded it with live rounds, and tested it in his soundproof firing range. Point. Aim. Pull trigger. Click. The hammer fell. The firing pin struck, but the primer didn't ignite. No explosion. No bullet. Just the hollow sound of a weapon refusing to kill. He tested it 10 times. 10 clicks. 10 failures. Perfect. Victor held the gun up to the light, turned it over in his hands. It was beautiful. Deadly looking, but as harmless as a child's toy. "This gun will kill the sin, not the sinner," he muttered to himself. Then he made the call. "It's ready." Bumpy came personally to pick it up. No Illinois Gordon, no backup. Just him and Victor in that basement workshop at 4 a.m. Victor handed him the weapon. Bumpy checked the weight. The balance pulled back the hammer. Dry fired at once. Click. He nodded. "How much?" No charge. This one's personal. Victor had a daughter, too. She was 20 now, healthy, alive. But he remembered the nights when she was young and sick with pneumonia, when every cough felt like a countdown. What you're doing, it's mercy. Strange mercy, but mercy. Bumpy pocketed the gun. Strange mercy is the only kind that matters. Now came the hard part. Getting Sam's real gun and replacing it with Victor's masterpiece, and that required precision timing and nerves of steel. September 8th, 1958. 4 days before the deadline Tony Maroney had given Sam. 4 days before September 12th at 11:47 p.m. Bumpy called Sam into his office that morning. I need you to do something for me. There's a package in the Bronx. 149th Street, apartment 6C. Man named Rodriguez, pick it up, bring it back. Don't open it. Sam nodded. When? Now. It's important. Sam left immediately. Bumpy knew the route, knew the traffic. Knew Rodriguez would make Sam wait 30 minutes before handing over the package because Rodriguez was always late for everything. Round trip 3 hours minimum. Plenty of time. Illinois Gordon was waiting outside when Sam's car pulled away. We're moving. They drove to Sam's apartment on 132nd Street, second floor. Fire escape access. Illinois had picked the lock in under 30 seconds. They were inside. The apartment was small. Kitchen, living room, 2 bedrooms, family photos on the walls, Kesha's drawings taped to the refrigerator, the smell of medicine and worry hanging in the air. Bumpy checked his watch. 10:47 a.m. 7 minutes. No more. Illinois moved fast. Master bedroom first. Checked the dresser. Nothing. Checked the closet. Nothing. Checked under the mattress. Nothing. Bumpy stood by the window watching the street. Old habit. Always watch your exits. 5 minutes. Illinois dropped to his knees, looked under the bed. There. A shoebox. He pulled it out, opened it. Inside, wrapped in an oilcloth, was Sam's .38 Special. The gun Sam had carried for 5 years. The gun that had been within reach during every close call, every dangerous night. Illinois held it up. Bumpy pulled Victor's identical weapon from his jacket, tossed it to Illinois. Swap them. Quick. Illinois unwrapped the real gun, wrapped Victor's fake in the same oilcloth, placed it in the shoebox exactly as he'd found it, slid the box back under the bed. Same position, same angle. Sam would never know. 3 minutes. They were almost at the door when they heard footsteps on the stairs outside, keys jingling, a woman's voice humming. Marie, Sam's wife. She was supposed to be at the hospital with Kesha until noon. Illinois and Bumpy looked at each other. No time to get out. Illinois dove under the bed. Bumpy slipped into the bedroom closet, pulled the door almost closed, left a crack to see through. The front door opened. Marie walked in carrying grocery bags. She set them on the kitchen counter, started putting things away. Canned soup, bread, medicine. Then she stopped. Stood there staring at nothing, and suddenly her shoulders started shaking. She was crying. Quiet, broken sobs. The kind that come when you're alone and don't have to be strong anymore. Under the bed, Illinois lay perfectly still. Every muscle frozen. Marie was 3 feet away. If she walked into the bedroom, if she decided to sit on the bed, if she dropped something and looked underneath, he was done. Bumpy watched through the crack in the closet door, hand on his pistol. He didn't want to hurt Marie. But if it came down to it, if she screamed, if she ran for the phone, he'd have to stop her. Gently. But he'd have to stop her. Marie wiped her eyes. Blew her nose, went to the sink. She washed her face, looked at herself in the small mirror hanging there. Pull yourself together, she whispered. Sam needs you strong. Kesha needs you strong. She took a deep breath, straightened her dress, picked up her purse, and walked back out. The door closed. The lock clicked. Footsteps faded down the stairs. Illinois waited 30 seconds, then crawled out. His shirt was soaked with sweat. That was too close. Bumpy stepped out of the closet. We're not done yet. They wiped down every surface they'd touched. Door handles, closet doors, the shoebox. 30 seconds later, they were out the fire escape down the alley in Illinois' car, pulling away. The whole operation took 17 minutes. Sam would never know they'd been there. That afternoon, Sam returned with the package from Rodriguez. Bumpy opened it. Inside was an empty envelope. There was no package. It was all a ruse to get Sam out of his apartment. Sam didn't question it. He never questioned Bumpy. That's what made this whole thing so hard. Over the next 21 days, Bumpy watched Sam fall apart. It was like watching a building collapse in slow motion. You could see the cracks forming, see the foundation crumbling, see the whole structure about to come down. Days 1 through 5, Sam held it together during the day. Smiled, laughed, stood at Bumpy's side like always. But at night, he'd go home and pull that briefcase out from under his bed where he'd hidden it. $50,000. He'd open it, stare at the money, run his fingers over the bills. Then he'd close it and shove it back under the bed, hands shaking. He hadn't decided yet. The money was there. The gun was there. But the choice hadn't been made. Days 6 through 10, Kesha got worse. The coughing fits lasted longer. More blood in her handkerchief. The doctor pulled Sam aside, told him they were running out of time. 2 months, maybe less without the aggressive treatment. And we can't start treatment until the bill is current. Sam started drinking. Every night after his shift, he'd sit in his kitchen with a bottle of whiskey, listening to his daughter cough through the thin walls, each sound like a nail in his heart. Days 11 through 15. Sam couldn't look Bumpy in the eye anymore. When they talked, Sam stared at the floor. When he poured Bumpy's evening cognac, his hands shook so bad he spilled it twice. Bumpy pretended not to notice. Pretended he didn't see Sam standing behind him sometimes, hand in his jacket pocket, shifting like a man preparing to do something terrible. Illinois wanted to act. He's cracking. We should handle this now. But Bumpy shook his head. Not yet. Let him choose. Days 16 through 20, Sam stopped sleeping entirely. His eyes were hollow, ringed with dark circles. He'd lost 15 pounds. He stood behind Bumpy at least 4 times during those 5 days, hand on the gun in his pocket, finger on the trigger. But he couldn't do it. Not in those moments. Not in daylight. Not without the deadline screaming in his ear. Day 21, September 11th, 9 p.m. Sam was at home when the phone rang. He picked it up. Tony Marinet's voice came through smooth as poison. Tomorrow night, 11:47 p.m., Lennox Lounge. No more waiting. No more excuses. You do this or Kesha dies. And Sam, I'll know if you warned him. We have people watching. You try to run. You try to tell Bumpy, your whole family disappears. All 3 daughters, your wife, everyone. You understand? Sam's voice was barely a whisper. I understand. Good man. 1 bullet. Then you're free. Then Kesha lives. The line went dead. Sam sat there holding the phone, staring at nothing. Tomorrow. Less than 24 hours. The choice had finally been made for him. He wasn't choosing the money over loyalty. He was choosing his daughter over everything else. And somehow, that made it worse. While Sam was drowning in his own hell, Bumpy was putting the final pieces of his plan in place. This wasn't just about stopping an assassination. This was about sending a message that would echo through the underworld for decades. 1 bullet, 1 moment, 1 lesson that would change everything. Step 1 happened 3 days ago. Bumpy had called Dr. Harrison, the best tuberculosis specialist in New York. I need you to examine a patient, girl, 9 years old, St. Luke's Hospital. Name's Kesha Foster. I want her treated. Best care available. Money's no object. Dr. Harrison examined Kesha the next morning, started her on the newest antibiotics, the kind that cost a fortune but actually worked. Within 48 hours, Kesha was breathing easier. The coughing stopped. Color returned to her face. Sam and Marie thought it was a miracle. They didn't know Bumpy had already paid the $47,000 hospital bill in full, plus another $10,000 for ongoing treatment. Step 2. Bumpy went to see Marie privately while Sam was working. He met her at a diner 6 blocks from the hospital, handed her an envelope. Inside $5,000 cash and Kesha's medical records showing zero balance. Marie stared at the papers, tears streaming down her face. "I don't understand. How? Don't tell Sam. Not yet. Just know Kesha's going to be fine. The medicine is working. The bills are paid. Your family is safe." "Why?" Bumpy looked at her across the table. "Because Sam's my brother, and family takes care of family. No matter what." Marie cried harder. She didn't know what was coming. Didn't know her husband was planning to kill the man sitting across from her. Bumpy did. And he was still paying the bills. Step 3. Jerome brought Bumpy something interesting. Photos. Grainy surveillance shots of Tony Maroney meeting with a man in a suit outside Federal Plaza, the FBI building. Jerome had followed Tony for 2 weeks, documenting every meeting. Turns out Tony wasn't just working for the 5 families. He was an FBI informant feeding information about mob operations to the government. The 5 families didn't know it yet, but they would soon. Pence. Bumpy made copies of everything. Step 4. Illinois Gordon recruited 15 men. Not the usual soldiers, these were ghosts. Men who could blend into a crowd, sit at a bar nursing a drink all night, look like tourists or businessmen or jazz enthusiasts. They would be positioned throughout Lenox Lounge on September 12th. Every exit covered, every angle watched. When the moment came, they'd be ready. Bumpy sat in his office the night of September 11th, studying a diagram of Lenox Lounge he'd drawn on a napkin. Exits marked, sight lines calculated. 15 positions circled. He smiled. 1 arrow. 3 birds. Sam learns what loyalty means. Tony gets exposed as a rat. And the 5 families learn you can't touch Harlem. Illinois stood by the door. What if it goes wrong? What if Sam's gun actually works somehow? Bumpy looked up. Then I die. And you make sure Sam knows I forgave him anyway. September 12th dawned gray and cold. The day Harlem would never forget began like any other day. But the people moving through it carried the weight of what was coming. 6:00 p.m. Sam sat on Kesha's hospital bed. She was laughing, showing him a drawing she'd made. A family. Mom, dad, 3 daughters, all holding hands under a big sun. She looked healthier than she had in months. The medicine was working. Sam hugged her, buried his face in her hair so she wouldn't see him cry. "Daddy loves you so much, baby girl. More than anything in this world. I love you too, Daddy." He held her for 5 minutes, memorizing the way she smelled, the sound of her laugh, the warmth of her small body against his chest. Then he left. Marie called after him. "Where are you going?" Sam didn't answer. Couldn't. 7:00 p.m. Sam sat at his kitchen table with a pen and paper. "Dear Marie, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I want you to know everything I did was for Kesha. For you. For our family. There's money hidden under the bed. $50,000. Take it, use it, raise our girls, tell them their father loved them more than life itself. Tell them I'm sorry." He signed it. Sealed it in an envelope, left it on the counter. 8:00 p.m. Sam opened the shoebox under his bed, pulled out the .38 special wrapped in oilcloth. He didn't know it was Victor's fake. Didn't know Bumpy had switched it 4 days ago. He loaded 6 rounds, checked the cylinder, tucked it into his waistband. Then he poured 3 shots of whiskey and drank them fast, one after another. The burn helped, made his hands stop shaking, made the voice in his head that was screaming, "Stop, stop, stop," a little quieter. No nice. 0 p.m. Bumpy Johnson stood in front of his mirror adjusting his tie. Gray suit, perfect fit. White shirt, cufflinks that had belonged to his father. Black fedora. He looked like a man going to a business meeting, not a man walking into his own assassination. Illinois waited by the door. Ready? Born ready. They left Bumpy's apartment building, got into the car. The drive to Lennox Lounge took 12 minutes. Neither man spoke. What was there to say? They both knew what was coming. Bumpy stared out the window at Harlem rolling past. His kingdom. His people. The place he'd bled for, killed for, lived for. If tonight was his last night, at least it was here. 10 p.m. Lennox Lounge was already filling up. Jazz band setting up on stage, bartenders polishing glasses, waitresses in red dresses taking early orders, and scattered throughout the crowd invisible were Illinois' 15 men. Marcus at the bar nursing a beer, Tommy at a corner table with fake girlfriend pretending to argue, JT by the stage acting like he was waiting for someone, each one armed, each one watching. 11:00 p.m. 300 people packed Lennox Lounge. Friday night in Harlem, the place to be. City councilmen, business owners, jazz musicians, hustlers. All of them crammed in together, drinking cognac, smoking cigarettes, laughing over the sound of saxophones and trumpets. Nobody knew history was about to be written in this room. Nobody except Bumpy, Illinois, the 15 ghosts scattered through the crowd, and the man about to walk through that door carrying a gun and a breaking heart. 11:30 p.m. Sam Foster stepped into Lennox Lounge. The light hit him wrong, cast his shadow long across the floor like death itself had followed him in. His suit was wrinkled. His eyes were red. He looked like a man who'd already died inside and his body just hadn't gotten the message yet. Bumpy sat at his usual corner table. Councilman Roberts on his left, Councilman Davis on his right. They were discussing a new housing development in Sugar Hill. Affordable apartments for working families. Bumpy was explaining how they'd fund it without cutting corners, without letting slumlords take over. His right hand rested on the table 6 inches from the gun in his waistband, just in case Victor's plan failed. Just in case Sam's gun somehow worked. Just in case this was really the end. 11:35 p.m. Tony Marinette walked in. He didn't go to the bar, didn't order a drink. Just found a table in the far corner, sat down and stared at Sam. His message was clear. I'm watching. Do it. Or else. Sam saw him, felt his stomach drop. There was no backing out now, no last-minute reprieve, no miracle that would save him from this choice. 11:40 p.m. Sam walked to the bar, ordered whiskey, his 4th drink of the night. The bartender, an old man named Clay, who'd known Sam for years, poured it and leaned in. You all right, brother? You look sick. I'm fine. Sam's voice was gravel. He wasn't fine. Wouldn't ever be fine again. He drank the whiskey in one swallow. His hand shook so bad he nearly dropped the glass. Across the room, Bumpy laughed at something Councilman Roberts said. The sound cut through Sam like glass. This was the man who'd saved his life, given him purpose, treated him like family. And in exactly 7 minutes, Sam was going to put a bullet in his head. 11:42 p.m. Tony Marinette caught Sam's eye, nodded once. The signal. It was time. Sam stood up from the bar. The whiskey had done its job. His hands weren't shaking anymore. His vision was crystal clear. Too clear. He could see every face, every glass, every shadow in Lennox Lounge. He started walking toward Bumpy's table, through the crowd, past the dancing couples, past the jazz band hitting their stride. Each step felt like moving through water, heavy, inevitable. The music seemed to slow stretch, become something haunting. His heart hammered against his ribs. The blood rushed in his ears. His hand moved to his waistband. The gun was cold through his shirt, cold like death itself. His fingers wrapped around the grip and the metal seemed to freeze his entire arm. He kept walking. The saxophone player hit a high note that hung in the air like a warning. Time felt strange, elastic. Sam noticed everything with painful clarity. The grain in the wood floor, the ice melting in drinks, the lipstick stain on a woman's glass, the way you notice everything right before you die. He could see the back of Bumpy's head now, the gray fedora sitting perfect, the tailored suit, the man who'd saved his life, the man he was about to kill. Sam's throat closed up, but he kept walking. Because Keisha, because her face, because her smile, because she was dying and he could save her. He pulled the gun from his waistband, held it behind his back. The metal warmed in his hand, warmed by his body heat, by his betrayal. He was close now, close enough to smell Bumpy's cologne, close enough to hear him laugh at something Councilman Roberts said. Sam raised the gun, slowly, like lifting a mountain. The barrel came up until it was level with the back of Bumpy's head. Point-blank range. Couldn't miss. Across the room, Illinois Gordon saw it first. His eyes went wide. His hand moved toward his own gun. He started to rise from his chair. Then something impossible happened. Bumpy's left hand came up. Didn't turn around. Didn't look. Just raised his left hand in a stopping motion. Palm out. Stop. Not yet. Illinois froze, his hand on his gun, his body halfway out of his chair. But he stayed, because Bumpy had given an order, and you didn't disobey Bumpy Johnson, not even to save his life. Sam's finger touched the trigger. This was it, the point of no return. He closed his eyes, saw Kesha's face, her smile, the way she looked at him like he was a hero. I'm sorry, baby girl. Daddy's sorry. He squeezed the trigger. Click. The sound wasn't loud, barely louder than a whisper, but in that packed room with 300 people and a live jazz band, that click cut through everything, like the snap of a breaking bone, like the last breath before drowning. The saxophone player stopped mid-note, the horn still at his lips, the note dying in his throat. A glass slipped from someone's hand. Shattered. Nobody moved to clean it up. 300 people turned, all eyes on Big Sam standing there with a gun pointed at Bumpy Johnson's head. A gun that had just clicked instead of firing. A gun that should have killed, but instead made the sound of a door closing. The sound of everything stopping. The world froze. Sam's eyes opened. He stared at the gun in his hand like it had betrayed him, pulled the trigger again. Click. Again. Click. Click. Nothing. The bullets were there. He could see them in the cylinder, but the gun wouldn't fire, wouldn't kill. Nobody breathed. The air was so thick you could choke on it. Then Bumpy Johnson reached for his cognac glass. His hand was steady, not a tremor. He lifted the glass, took a slow sip, savored it, set it back down. Not a drop spilled. He turned around. Slow, like he had all the time in the world, like a man checking the weather, not a man who'd just had a gun to his head. His eyes met Sam's eyes. No anger, no rage, no fury, just something worse. Disappointment. Deep, crushing, soul-destroying disappointment. I've been counting on you. 5 words, spoken quietly, almost gently, but they hit Sam harder than any bullet ever could. Because in those 5 words, Sam understood everything. Bumpy had known about Tony Marinette, known about the $50,000, known about the plan, known about this moment, known everything. And instead of killing, Sam, Bumpy had let him walk in here, let him pull that trigger, let him destroy himself in front of 300 witnesses. The gun fell from Sam's hand, clattered on the hardwood floor. The sound echoed forever. Sam's legs gave out. He dropped to his knees. Hard. His hands came up to his face. Then the tears came. Broken, choking sobs that shook his entire body. I'm sorry. God, Bumpy. I'm sorry. My daughter. I had to. I had to save her. I know about your daughter. Bumpy's voice was quiet, controlled, but it carried through that silent room like thunder. I've known for 6 months. Sam looked up through his tears, His face was destroyed. "You think I don't take care of my people?" Bumpy reached into his jacket. Not for a gun, for an envelope. He dropped it on the table. "Kesha's medical bills, all of them, paid in full this morning." Sam stared at the envelope like it was a snake. "There's also a check in there for $5,000 for your family, for whatever you need." The words didn't make sense. Couldn't make sense. Sam had just tried to kill this man, and Bumpy had paid his daughter's medical bills. But why? Why didn't you tell me? Huh. Because I needed to know. Bumpy stood up, 5'9", but right now he seemed 10 feet tall. "I needed to know if you'd choose money over loyalty, if you'd choose their 50,000 over our brotherhood." He paused. The silence was unbearable. "Now I know." Those two words were worse than a death sentence. Sam felt something inside him break. His honor, his dignity, his soul. What happened next would be told in Harlem for 50 years. Bumpy clapped his hands twice, sharp, commanding. The back room lights came on, bright, blinding. Through the door walked Illinois Gordon holding the hand of a little girl. 9 years old, clean yellow dress, hair braided perfect, face full of color. Smiling. "Kesha." Sam's world stopped. "Con." His voice shattered. "Con on." Kesha ran to him, threw her arms around his neck. "Daddy, I feel so much better. The doctor gave me new medicine and I can breathe and I don't cough anymore." Sam held his daughter, felt her warmth, her life, her breath. She was healthy. Really healthy. The medicine had worked. She wasn't dying. She was going to live. A nurse stood by the door. Professional. Calm. Everything was under control. Bumpy pulled another envelope from his jacket, held it up so everyone could see. "This is Kesha's medical file, complete treatment plan. Best tuberculosis specialist in New York. Dr. Harrison. I paid him 3 weeks ago." He looked at Sam. "I know what it's like to watch someone you love die. My mother. Tuberculosis. I sat by her bed for 6 weeks. I know that desperation, that willing to sacrifice anything feeling." His voice got quieter, almost gentle. "So when I found out about Kesha, I fixed it, because that's what family does. They take care of each other." Sam couldn't speak. His daughter was alive. And Bumpy had known, had saved her anyway. Saved her while Sam was planning to kill him. But the night wasn't over. Across the room, Tony Marinette stood up. His face had gone white. He turned toward the door, took 2 steps. 15 men stood up at the same time, all around the room, blocking every exit, every escape route. Tony froze. Bumpy nodded to Illinois. Illinois pulled a projector from behind the bar, set it up, pointed it at the wall, flipped a switch. Images appeared. Surveillance photos. Tony Marinette outside Federal Plaza, the FBI building. Tony shaking hands with a Fed. Tony handing over a manila envelope. Tony counting money. The room went dead silent. 3 months, Bumpy said. His voice carried. 3 months Tony Marinette has been feeding information to the FBI. Locations, names, operations, everything the 5 families have been planning. He pulled out a tape recorder, pressed play. Tony's voice came through, tinny but clear. "Yeah, I got the witness list. Gambino's moving the shipment Tuesday night. Pier 47. Costello's meeting with the union boss Thursday. I'll get you the exact time." A Fed's voice responded. "Good work, Tony. Your handler will have your payment by Friday. Another 5,000. I will. These idiots trust me. They have no idea." Bumpy stopped the tape. 3 Gambino soldiers in the crowd stood up. Their faces were stone. One of them, a bull named Sal, walked over to Bumpy's table. Bumpy handed him the tape and photos. "Mr. Gambino will want to hear this himself," Sal said. "I know." Sal looked at Tony. Tony stared at the floor. "We'll handle this." Tony was walked out between two soldiers, his head down, his shoulders slumped. A dead man walking. But Bumpy wasn't done. This moment was bigger than Sam and Tony. This was about sending a message that would echo through the underworld for decades. Bumpy turned to face the room. All 300 people. I want everyone here to understand something. His voice was calm but filled the space. Tony tried to buy Sam. $50,000. Threatened his whole family. His daughter would die if he didn't pull that trigger. He gestured to Kesha, healthy and alive. But here's what Tony didn't know. What the 5 families didn't know. You can't buy a man when his family's already taken care of. He held up the envelope. I paid these bills 3 weeks ago. Before Sam knew. Before Tony made his offer. Because that's what we do in Harlem. We take care of our own. He looked around the room. The Italians think they can divide us, turn us against each other with money and threats. Think they can buy loyalty. His voice got harder. They're wrong. He pointed at his head. The real weapon isn't guns. It's this. Intelligence. Planning. Knowing what your enemy's going to do before they do it. He pointed at his heart. And this. Loyalty. Love. Taking care of your people even when they've made mistakes. He gestured to Sam. Sam made a choice tonight. A father's choice. I can't blame him for that. Because I asked myself the same question. If it was my daughter dying, what would I do? The room held its breath. But I also won't let that choice define him. Because people are more than their worst moment. People deserve second chances. People deserve mercy. His voice rose. The 5 families wanted to make an example of me tonight. They failed. 7 times before this. Tonight was attempt number 8. He smiled. Cold. Predatory. And now they know. You can't buy Harlem. You can't threaten Harlem. You can't take Harlem. His voice commanded. Because Harlem isn't just a neighborhood, it's a family. And families protect each other. Families forgive each other. Families survive together. He raised his cognac glass. To Harlem. To loyalty that can't be bought. To brotherhood that can't be broken. 300 people stood. 300 glasses raised. To Harlem. The roar shook the walls. The jazz band exploded back to life. Saxophones wailing, trumpets screaming. History had just been made. Bumpy walked over to Sam. Stood over him. You're leaving tonight, Bumpy said quietly. Take your family. Go to Detroit. I have contacts there. They'll set you up. A fresh start. Bumpy, I don't want to hear sorry. Sorry doesn't mean anything. What means something is what you do next. Sam nodded. Couldn't speak. Every morning you wake up, you're going to remember this night. That you tried to kill me. That I gave you a second chance anyway. Bumpy leaned down, spoke into Sam's ear. You're going to remember that mercy is more powerful than revenge. That forgiveness is more terrifying than punishment. Because now you owe me something you can never repay. Your daughter's life. Your life. Your soul. His voice got quieter. That's a debt that lasts forever, Sam. You'll carry it to your grave. And that's a heavier punishment than anything I could do with bullets. Sam knew it was true. He'd live with this guilt forever. But he'd also live, next to his wife, hearing his daughters laugh, watching them grow. Thank you, Sam whispered. Thank you for showing me what a real man looks like. Bumpy nodded once, then walked back to his table, sat down like nothing had happened, picked up his cognac. Now, Bumpy said to the councilman, where were we? The housing development. I think we can break ground by spring. And just like that, life went on. Sam stood up, held Kesha's hand. Illinois handed him a paper with Detroit contacts. Sam took it, nodded, then walked out of Lennox Lounge for the last time. He'd leave New York that night. drive to Detroit, start over with nothing but his family and an unpayable debt. And every morning for 40 years until he died in 1998, Sam Foster would wake up and remember. Remember the click. Remember 5 words. Remember the lesson. Real power isn't killing your enemies. It's turning them into students. You can't buy loyalty. You can't threaten brotherhood. And you can't beat a man who's always 3 moves ahead with the mercy to let you live with that knowledge. That's power. The kind that lasts. The kind that builds legends. And on September 12, 1958 at Lenox Lounge, that power was on full display. 300 witnesses, 1 betrayal, 1 click, 1 lesson. A legend that would never die. September 13, 1958, 8:00 a.m., Little Italy, Manhattan. The conference room above Vesuvio's restaurant was thick with cigar smoke and rage. 5 men sat around a mahogany table, the heads of the 5 families: Costello, Gambino, Lucchese, Bonanno, Profaci. Between them sat empty espresso cups and ashtrays overflowing with dead cigarettes. Tony Marinet's body had been found 2 hours ago, floating in the East River, his tongue cut out, his hands broken. But Tony's death wasn't what had these men gathered. It was the humiliation. The complete defeat at the hands of one man. Frank Costello slammed his fist on the table. We look like fools. Bumpy Johnson made us look like amateurs in front of 300 people. Carlo Gambino lit another cigar. When he spoke, his voice was deadly quiet. That's because we are fools, Frank. At least when it comes to this man. The room went silent. Gambino leaned forward. This man doesn't play the same game we play. We're playing checkers. He's playing chess. 7 times we tried to kill him. 7 times he saw us coming. This time was worse. He turned it into theater, made mercy look like power, made us look weak. Lucchese spoke up. So what do? Just let him win. Gambino's face was hard, resolved. We do the only smart thing left. We leave Harlem alone. The room exploded. Costello stood up. Absolutely not. We don't retreat. To a man who's beaten us 8 times, Gambino's voice cut through the noise. To a man who has the entire neighborhood's loyalty, Harlem is his. It's always been his. Gambino straightened up. Effective immediately, Harlem is off limits. No operations. No expansion. No revenge. Anyone who goes against this order answers to me personally. It was the first time in the history of the American Mafia that the 5 families publicly acknowledged they couldn't take territory from a single man. The decision would stand for 10 years, until Bumpy Johnson's death. By noon that same day, the story had spread like wildfire. In Boston, Irish mob bosses heard about the clique that didn't fire. In Chicago, the outfit heard about Bumpy exposing an FBI informant. In Detroit, the Purple Gang heard about a man who could see the future. In Miami, Cuban smugglers heard about a king who couldn't be bought or killed. Every version was different. Some said Bumpy had supernatural powers. Some said he'd made a deal with the devil. But they all agreed on one thing. Bumpy Johnson was untouchable. Harlem became mythical. A forbidden zone. Not because of walls or guards or weapons, but because of one man's legend. Young gangsters grew up hearing the story. The night the gun didn't fire at Lenox Lounge. Old gangsters told it around card tables, in back rooms, in prison cells. Each telling made it bigger, but the core remained true. Bumpy Johnson had defeated the 5 families without firing a shot, had turned betrayal into loyalty, had made mercy look like strength. That's the kind of story that lives forever. July 7, 1968, Lenox Lounge. 11:30 p.m. Bumpy Johnson sat at his usual corner table, the same table where Sam had stood behind him 10 years ago. He was 62 now, silver hair, lines of age and wisdom, but still wore immaculate suits, still had that presence. Illinois Gordon sat across from him, also older, also grayer, but still loyal. They were talking about old memories, old friends, the way old men do when they've survived everything. Bumpy reached for his cognac, took a sip, started to laugh at something Illinois said, then his face changed. The glass slipped from his hand. Shattered. Cognac spread across the wood like liquid gold. Bumpy's hand went to his chest. His face went pale. His breathing became ragged. Illinois was up in a second, catching Bumpy as he fell. "Brother, hold on, someone call an ambulance." The whole room held its breath. Bumpy looked up at his oldest friend, his breathing shallow, his lips turning blue, but he smiled. "I'm dying right where I belong," he whispered. "No regrets." Bumpy Johnson died at 11:47 p.m., the exact same time Sam had pulled that trigger 10 years ago, in the exact same place. Some people said it was poetry. Some said it was fate. The funeral was 3 days later, July 10th, 1968. Harlem shut down completely. 5,000 people lined the streets. Everyone wore black. Everyone came to say goodbye. The procession moved slowly through Harlem. City councilmen walked alongside gang members. Priests walked alongside hustlers. Rich folks walked alongside poor folks. In death as in life, Bumpy brought everyone together. Then someone stepped out of the crowd, an old man, white hair, worn face, carrying something wrapped in cloth. Sam Foster. He'd driven 18 hours from Detroit, hadn't slept, hadn't eaten. Just drove. The procession stopped. Let him through. Everyone knew who he was. The man who tried to kill Bumpy and lived. Sam walked to the casket. His hands shook as he unwrapped the cloth. Inside was the .38 Special. The gun that didn't fire. He'd kept it for 10 years. He placed it gently on top of the casket. "You taught me," he whispered, tears streaming. "The strongest man isn't the one who kills the most. It's the one who saves the most." His voice cracked. 10 years I've lived with the guilt, but also with gratitude. You gave me the chance to be a father. You saved my daughter. Kesha's 19 now, healthy, in college. He wiped his eyes. You saved my soul. Taught me what a real man is, what real power is. Sam bowed his head. Now I understand. You weren't a king. You were a teacher. My teacher. And I'll remember that lesson until I die. He stepped back. Other people came forward, placed flowers, placed memories. At the graveside, Illinois, Gordon gave the eulogy. Bumpy Johnson never needed a real bullet. Illinois said to the 5,000 people gathered, never needed violence, never needed fear, because the weapons he used were intelligence and compassion. His voice got stronger. He could have killed Sam Foster, easy, but he didn't kill. He saved. He forgave. He taught. That's real power, not killing your enemy, but turning your enemy into a student. Illinois paused. 50 years from now, people will remember Bumpy Johnson, not because of how many people he killed, but because he saved an entire community, because he proved that power doesn't come from guns, it comes from love and intelligence. He looked at the casket one last time. Rest now, my brother. Your work is done, and you did it well. They lowered the casket into the ground. 5,000 people stood in silence. Then someone started singing. A hymn. Others joined in. The sound filled Harlem, filled the sky. Bumpy Johnson was gone, but what he built remained. Present day, Harlem. The neighborhood has changed, but some things remain. Kids play basketball on 125th Street, laughing, safe. Under a tree in Marcus Garvey Park, old men tell young kids about the night the gun didn't fire, about Bumpy Johnson, about real power. The kids listen with wide eyes, want to know more. The old man keeps the legend alive. On Lenox Avenue, there's a street sign. Bumpy Johnson Boulevard. The city put it up in 2005. In the center of a small plaza, there's a bronze statue, 8 feet tall, Bumpy Johnson. But he's not holding a gun. He's got his hand on a child's shoulder, protecting, teaching. The plaque reads, Ellsworth Bumpy Johnson, 1905-1968, protector of Harlem. He ruled not through fear, but through love. Camera pulls back slowly. Shows more of Harlem, the buildings, the people, the life continuing, the neighborhood standing strong. Because that's what Bumpy built. Not an empire, not a criminal organization, a community, a family, a legacy that couldn't be killed or bought or destroyed. He proved that the most dangerous weapon isn't a gun, isn't money, isn't violence. It's knowing what's coming before anyone else does, having the intelligence to stay 3 moves ahead, and having the mercy to let your enemies live with that knowledge. That's power. Real power. The kind that lasts forever.